In the year 1930, an economist by the name of John Maynard Keynes published an essay called Economic Possibilities for Our Grandchildren. And in that essay he wrote that because of all the improvements in efficiency, by today we would be only working 15-hour work weeks. And obviously this is very much not the case. If anything, we probably work more than in the 30s. But why? Why do we still work so much? Because the other part of his prediction certainly did prove to be right. We are incredibly efficient today. We have all these new technologies, computers, artificial intelligence, robots. So if we have all these incredible gains and improvements in efficiency, why do we still work so much? This is something that I want to talk about today. Hey, what's up, and welcome back to my channel. Today I want to talk about work, and more specifically about why we still work so much even if we have all these improvements in efficiency. And to understand why this is the case, we have to understand the basic principles of efficiency. Because whenever we make improvements in efficiency, we have two options. We can either choose to produce the same output with less input, or we can choose to produce more with the same input. The easiest way to understand this is to look at a simple example. Let's say that I'm a carpenter and my job is to build tables. Now let's say it takes me 10 hours to build one table, so I build around one table per day and work 10 hours per day. But suddenly, thanks to new modern tools, I can now build a table in only 2 hours, so 5 times faster. So I can now choose to only work 2 hours per day and produce the same amount of tables, one table in 2 hours, or I can choose to work the same 10 hours, but instead produce 5 tables in the same time. So I increase my output by a factor of 5. And once we understand this, it becomes very clear why we still work so much. Because even if our work hours haven't changed much in the last 100 years, the amount of stuff we own has increased tremendously. We now live in bigger homes, we have more cars, we have more TVs, all these things that back then were either real luxuries or even completely unthinkable. So in a way you could say that our conditions improve, because even though we don't work less, we have more stuff. But if you compare us to people 100 years ago, we don't only have more stuff, we also have more depression, more chronic illness, more loneliness. So I wouldn't say that we made a good bargain. Because in the end, we aren't healthier, we aren't happier, and the planet certainly isn't healthier as well. So why did we choose to go this route? Why did we choose to have 40 or 50-hour work weeks and have all these superfluous things instead of choosing to work only 15 hours per week and having more time to spend with our loved ones, with our friends, more time to pursue our passions and improve our health? The reason I believe is that in some ways we didn't choose this, it was in a way forced on us. Even though we all theoretically have the possibility to work part-time and consume less, we still live in a society that incentivizes consumption and work. Big corporations spend billions of dollars to figure out the best way to make us want to buy something that we don't really need, and governments support this because it plays a big role in our current economic system. We currently use the GDP, or gross domestic product, to measure the progress and the wealth of a country. The GDP is the value of all the products and services that are produced in a country. So in a way we measure our progress by how much we produce and ultimately also consume. And in some ways this can be a very useful measure, especially when we had to rebuild our economies after the war, or even today for developing countries who don't yet manage to meet the basic needs of all their citizens. Economic growth is incredibly important. But for very wealthy countries, for example, in Europe or North America, that already have a lot more than they need, I don't think that producing more this year than last year is a good measure of progress, because we don't necessarily need to produce more. We really have to remember what the actual purpose of an economy is. We live on a limited planet with limited resources, so the job of the economy is to distribute these resources as efficiently as possible, but also in a fair and sustainable way. And the ultimate goal of an economy should be to ensure and maximize the well-being of both humans and the planet, because in the end, humans can't live without the planet. But sadly, our current system does not do a good job at accomplishing this goal. We currently sacrifice our own health and happiness and also the well-being of the planet in the name of profit and economic growth. For example, the USA has less than 5% of the world population, but it uses more than 25% of the world's resources. And we are already seeing the consequences: plastic pollution, global warming, the loss of biodiversity and wilderness in general. And it is very obvious that we can't go on like this, because we are destroying the very ecosystems that we depend upon for our living. So what's the solution here? I'm going to talk about two broader categories of solutions. First, I'm going to talk about some things we can do on a societal level and on a political level, but then I'm also going to bring it back to our own lives and to the original topic of this video, which is work. We radically need to change our economic system in two big ways. The first is that we need to move from a linear system to a circular system. Currently, most products are produced in a linear way. So we extract resources from the environment, then we transport it, we produce it, we transport it again and sell it, and at some point we put it in a landfill. But in a world of limited resources, we can't continuously extract and then discard again, because at some point we are going to run out of things to extract and we are going to have way too much trash, which we already have. Instead, we need a system where everything is repurposed and continues to give value to us even after its original purpose is no longer served. So we need products that can be composted, we need products that can be recycled and upcycled, and we need that all our products enter a cycle where they are continuously being reused instead of just thrown away. The second big way in which our system needs to change is that we need to move away from economic growth. A lot of people think that our economy would not work without economic growth. And in some ways they are correct, because our economy is built upon a system of growth. That's because our system is fueled by loans and interest payments, and in order for all these interests to be paid, which is essentially more money that didn't exist before, this also needs to come from somewhere, and this is why our current system is dependent upon economic growth. But what most people don't realize is that this is not some kind of natural law. It's simply a system that was invented by humans, and it's a system that has a giant design flaw, and there's no reason why we can't change it. But a lot of the products and services that are created and a lot of the jobs that are involved in them are, if you think about it, really completely unnecessary. So if we move away from the mindset of producing as much as we can and maximizing output, and instead we try to move towards a system where we define what we really need and what is really necessary for our well-being, for our health and happiness, and which is also necessary for the planet to thrive, and then we try to fulfill these needs with minimal input. If we thought about it like this, we would quickly realize that we don't need to consume as much as we do, and consequently we also don't have to work as much as we do, because less work is required to produce the goods and also less work is required to earn the money to buy these goods. So in the end, if we all consume less, we also need to work less, and at the same time reduce the impact that we have on the planet. And this brings me back to the original topic of work and why we work so much. It's because work and consumption are the two big forces that keep this machine running. When we work, we produce goods and services for others to consume, and we earn money so that we ourselves can consume the goods and services that others produce. So when we consume less, we also have to work less, and when we work less, less stuff is produced, which is okay since we also consume less. And this is applicable both on a personal and also on a societal level. And we do need big political and economic changes to happen, but that doesn't mean that we have to wait for them. As individuals, we can make these changes in our own lives right now. We can start to consume less and to reduce our expenses, and this means that ultimately we need less money to meet our needs, and we can start to work less. I have already made a lot of videos on minimalism and frugal living, And this is really an incredible, powerful tool here. I myself, for example, started working a new job last year, and I suddenly made a lot more money than I ever had in my entire life. But I was very careful not to just start spending it all. I don't really have any expenses outside of rent and food, and I'm very careful to keep it that way. And because of that, I spend less than 50% of my income, and I know that I don't depend on a full-time job to meet my needs. In fact, I already talked to my boss and I will start working part-time next year, and this is something you can do as well. But of course, you don't have to. If you really enjoy your work and you like spending a lot of time at work, then that is amazing, and you absolutely do not need to feel that you need to work less. It's perfectly fine to enjoy your job. But if you are one of the many people out there who don't really like their job and who would like to spend more time doing other things, spend more time with their friends and family, have more time for their passions and interests, then know that there is an alternative out there, and that if you consume less, you also need to work less. Okay, I think this is a good place to end this video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you found it interesting. If you did, let me know in the comments down below, and subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. And I will see you, if you want, in my next video.